Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. My name is Jared Budlong. I'm running as an independent candidate for governor here in Alabama, and we are doing things different on this campaign. We live stream as much as possible to be as transparent as possible with our campaign as a sign of good faith, for lack of better phrasing. So tonight is normally a policy meeting, and it's still policy, but it is not future policy. It is policy that's already been presented to our legislature, has already been approved by both sides. It's been signed by our governor, and we are voting for it come November 8th. So we're talking about 2022 ballot measures for the state of Alabama, and that is going to include 10 amendments and a recompiling of our Constitution. So hang out for a bit. I actually have a meeting we're going to bring in. Taylor, will you say a word or two just to make sure people can hear you on your end?
Hello. I was gonna say something like butt face.
Yeah,
but then I just
cool. It looks like you're coming through. So you
I
should
went
be
with hello.
okay. Cool. All right. So I want to start with the recompile because it's really, I think it's going to be the one that we can quickly just cover, and everybody can make their own decisions from there. So the recompiling of the Constitution. Let me share a screen real quick. Taylor, you won't be able to see this, but everybody else will. So you can just listen along, right? All right, so let's get that a little bit bigger. All right, so this is a recompiling of our state constitution, and what needs to be very, very clear is that we are not rewriting the Constitution. We are not adding new laws. We are making a few changes that are supposed to make it easier to read. So the ballot measure, the quick description you're going to see on the ballot is actually the Constitution of Alabama of 2022 will only do the following. The Constitution that similar subjects are located together. So if we have amendments that are related to Shelby County, somebody says they can't hear can't hear her on this end. Let me bring the volume up some. Let's do that. All right. Let me know if you can't hear in a second. All right. So we're grouping things together, and think about any of amendments that are going to deal with Shelby County as an example. Those will all be grouped together, or infrastructure related. Those will all be grouped together so that it's easier to read through the 400,000 plus word document that we have currently as our state constitution that currently has 978 amendments. We're trying to make it easier.
You said 400,000 words. That's four full-length novels.
It's the longest constitution in the world that's currently active, at least at last check.
Yeah. But yeah, that's four full-length novels. If you've ever read Dead Until Dark by Sookie Stackhouse, that's roughly 92,000 words. 4 of those is the Constitution. That's
it is
crazy.
Wild. So, all right, I'm going to try and keep an eye on the chat too. But that's one thing that we're doing. So we're reorganizing it so it's easier to read, because right now you have to go from Amendment 970 to Amendment 764 to Amendment 500 to Amendment 32, and they can all relate to each other, and it's really hard to follow as a layperson or as even as the legislature. Like, you have to actually walk through that and try to follow each other. It can be very very confusing. So let's see. Let's jump back into the page. Hear feedback from both of you since I turned you up. Interesting. Well, Amanda, tell me if that keeps happening, because it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be getting that. But all right, so let's jump to the next part. The next part is removing racist language. So they're removing the one thing that I'm aware of that I've been able to find is actually removing the exception clause for involuntary servitude. And removing, that's the only like direct actionable item. They're also removing some outdated language, so to speak. So I'm being careful with what I say, because we're also on TikTok. But we're also deleting repeated or repealed portions and language. So if there's any laws or anything that's been repealed or is duplicate, they're removing that again to cut back in the language and make it easier to follow. Placing all amendments which deal with economic development together, kind of related to what we talked about earlier, and then arranging local amendments by county. So we talked about that. So the big thing is they're trying to make it easier to read the current Constitution when you want to review that nearly 400,000 word document that we have. And the problem that I have, and this is, it goes back to something we talk about regularly, right? We talk about this Constitution we have right now, and it was written in 1901. And literally the purpose of that Constitution that we have, that we're still using, it's been amended 978 times, but we're still using it, is it was written with the express intent of instilling white supremacy into law in the state so that it would just permeate the entire state and everybody would just be affected. And my problem with this number 2 is that we're removing some language and that doesn't remove the intent, which is why we've had to amend it 700 or 978 times. And if I'm being frank, right, if we didn't have this piece on there, I'd be all for it. It sounds like a great step in the right direction. My concern, though, is that, cool, thank you for covering that. Whatever moderator just took care of that, thank you. Yep. Whatever language we're removing doesn't actually remove the intent, and that's where my concern is. If we had not included this part, all of it kind of makes sense, and it seems like a step in the right direction. Vote however you prefer. I don't think it's a move in the right direction because of that language piece. It seems like we're going to give people an excuse not to want to actually rewrite the entire Constitution. And the point that I try to bring up to people, from my perspective, it's a big red flag when the people who don't want to rewrite the Constitution are unanimously okay with just removing some language. It shows that they understand the actual implications of rewriting it, and they're fine with changing the language because they don't think it's going to make a difference, and it doesn't actually change the power structure, and that's why I'm worried about it. Everything else actually sounds good. Like, I get it. There are no other changes. We're not adding laws. We're not doing anything. We're not adding anything to the list. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you please explain to me why the idea of removing the, because you said changing the language doesn't change the intent. Can you please explain to me why removing the intent of racism is a bad thing? Because people seem to be very mad about this. Like in the TikTok comments, people are angry that you don't want a white supremacist constitution for Alabama. I'm confused.
I couldn't tell you. I don't agree with it, so I don't I don't know. I don't have a good answer. The pushback,
besties, you're telling
the pushback
on
I've had
yourself.
from people that are like, will put their face behind what they're saying. The problem that I keep hearing back is that we've put a lot of work into trying to recompile or rewrite the Constitution, and we keep getting a no. So let's try to do one thing as a step in the right direction. And I agree that it's a step. I'm just not sure it's the right direction. It seems like a sidestep, and we're just going to make a circle and not actually fix anything. And that's why I'm concerned about it. It seems like we're going to give people an excuse to not actually want to make further changes. It seems like a compromise, which historically has not been a good thing for our country, to make compromises when it involves racism. So I don't think it's a great idea. I hate
what you're doing there with compromise.
If I mean, if they had, never mind. You know what? I'm not gonna. That's not a good joke. We're gonna leave it alone. So that's the recompile. That's one of the ballot measures. The rest of what we're going to talk about are amendments to the Constitution, and I'm going to do this a little backwards. I'm going to cover number 10 first, because it relates to the other 9, and it's part of the confusion potentially. So I want to cover number 10 first. So essentially, number 10 only applies if we adopt the new recompiled Constitution. So if new Constitution is adopted, the recompiled version, then any of the 1 through 9, if those get approved and we approve number 10, 1 through 9 will be a part of the recompile rather than the first 9 amendments to our new constitution that we are just now voting to have. So I want to make sure that's clear on kind of what the reason that we have a 10th amendment. It's like, that's the whole point is if we vote to have a new constitution and we vote on any of the amendments, they will be included with the new constitution as a part of the constitution. So that's number 10. We'll close that and then just jump straight to, I think, number 1, unless somebody has questions. I don't think there's anything on Blatjiv or Blatjiv. Sometimes people who don't want to things are simply okay with racism, even if they do like condemning it. Yeah. My concern is there's a difference between overt racism and just, the system that is racist, which is my concern.
I guess I just don't understand why you would out yourself.
I don't know that they're I don't know that they're doing it necessarily on purpose. And I'm talking about everyday people. The people that hear me say this. I don't know that they are doing it on purpose, right? I think that they think it's a good thing. I just don't know that they're thinking thoroughly through it on everyday people. The people that have studied it and know the problem, I want to have a longer conversation with, and I have told them that there's a way to schedule a meeting with me on my website. And I have not had anyone take up that opportunity to explain to me from their perspective why they think this is a good idea. So really wish they had. It's literally open to the public, so anybody can. Don't know why they haven't. So all we can do is move forward and take our best vote on it based on our understandings. So moving along, Amendment 1. This one is colloquially known as Anaya's Law, and it is a change to our Constitution in Section 16. And we have the bill. I have the bill pulled up. Let's see. So if nobody's looked at bills before, if you're making a change to an existing section, they put the entire section in, then they strike out the stuff that you're changing and add in an underlined part for the parts that are changing, right? So in here, Section 16, it used to read that all persons shall before conviction be bailable by sufficient sureties, except for capital offenses when the proof is evident or the presumptive great an offense enumerated by the legislator's general law. Scroll down and get in there, and that excessive bail shall not in any case be required. Right. So they're basically saying, hey, if there's sufficient proof, that then you can essentially be bailable. You can remove bail if they have sufficient proof. My concern is that we are removing the option of bail for very specific use cases, very specific charges. Again, not convictions, and that's the part that I think I keep hearing people misconstrue. We are talking about pre-trial. This is someone got arrested for they're being charged with a crime, because we are in theory innocent until proven guilty. And we are changing it to where if you are being charged with a specific crime, you no longer have the option for bail. And because of the case that's being tied to it, I understand people's want to do that. But we are now punishing people who are just being charged with something. They did anything yet. They haven't gone to trial. And we already have in the current law, when there's proof, then like you could remove bail if I'm reading it correctly. My concern is this will be abused. Like you could move it from second degree to first degree of any of these charges. reading them because of TikTok, but there's a bunch of them, and they're all traditionally considered violent crimes. If you're looking at this on the other platforms, you can read it as I'm scrolling, hopefully. It's related to unaliving, kidnapping, things like that. We're limiting the freedom of people who haven't been convicted of anything, and so I'm go on it. I know I'm gonna have some people who disagree with me and that are vote blue no matter who crowd, but I don't care. This is not the right direction. We're not addressing why actions happen. We're just trying to put something in place that will just punish people that are currently being charged. So that's where I'm at on it. Taylor, do you have any questions? I know you haven't looked at this as much as I have.
I was actually going to ask if you could just send me the document so I could read along with you.
Yeah. I mean, I have a whole bunch of tabs open, so you just want this one specifically? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? We're going to put that in the chat everywhere, and I'll send it to you in the meet. Yep.
Gracias.
Taco Slammer, not sure why you're LMAOing.
I don't know either.
Not sure why you're laughing. I don't find it funny. So that's the main piece, right? And they just reiterate a couple different ways. And essentially, if everybody votes, if the majority of people vote yes, it gets place. And if you are charged with any of those crimes that we listed or we showed on screen, I didn't list them out verbally. If you are charged of any of those crimes, you immediately don't get bail. There's no option for bail. And that is a conviction. It is a charge. All right. That's my concern. Candace, I think it's Candace Satosta. Yep. You agree? It's knowing how messed up the system is right now already. I don't like the way this is heading, especially when there's already a caveat, right? There's a caveat already, and we're just taking it out of general law and putting it hardline, very specific offenses. And again, it's for people that have been charged, not convicted. It's not conviction related. So if there's any questions in the chat, put them in. Otherwise, we're going to move on to the next amendment. It's amendment number 2. Let's see if we can find it. Here we go. The state website's been acting up the past couple of days, so I've been having to find resources through other means because for our state and the legislature is not working correctly. So fun times to do a live stream and try to talk about this. All right. Amendment 2, proposed amendment to the Constitution of Alabama of 1901 to authorize the state, a county, or a municipality to grant federal award funds or any other source funding designated for broadband infrastructure by state law to public or private entities for providing or expanding broadband infrastructure. So the thing to keep in mind here is that right now we have funding, and this isn't increasing funding. It's not decreasing funding. It is changing the funding can go. Currently, it is supposed to stay within the public sector. We're opening that up to the private sector. I do want to open up the original bill real quick because I thought I had done that earlier, but again, we were running into issues. So it should be House Bill 55, and it was the 2021 legislative session, and we'll open enrolled and the amendments. All right, so we'll scroll down, just scroll through real quick. There is created an advisory board of directors that shall consist of 16 members and shall advise the commissioner and the administration. Taylor, go ahead.
I have a really stupid question.
Okay.
Is broadband infrastructure what I think it is, or is it? Tell me
No,
what it
it's
is.
high-speed internet. Yep.
Okay, I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, that's a good question. You're good.
And that would be. Can you explain it like I'm?
Yeah, so we're talking about any way of getting high-speed internet to the resident of the state. So I'm all for that. Let me be very clear. We need better access to infrastructure. This is enabling us to spend money as a state, city, county, any municipalities to spend it with a private entity rather than doing it through public. It also looks like it's making other changes, which it's frustrating when people really simplify it and just say, hey, it's just about where you're spending money, but it's actually making other changes. And that's something why I wanted to read through this.
Would this be, I'm sorry, would this also include, like, because I know that some cities have like city Wi-Fi. I don't remember what
It's
it's called, but like,
yeah,
just the
it's
city.
municipal
It's
Wi-Fi. Yep.
okay. Would that be this? So like anybody walking down the street would have access to it,
Not
or
necessarily. So again, I'm going off of my summary and that's why we're opening these up and reading through them, because the couple that I double checked didn't line up exactly with what they were saying, at least from my perspective. So we're taking a deep dive rather than assuming somebody else's word. My understanding is that it's just where the funding can be spent to expand that infrastructure. So it would mean rather than doing public municipal Wi-Fi or broadband access, they would allow private entities to expand Wi-Fi or broadband. It doesn't have to be Wi-Fi. It could just be laying out fiber lines. It could be doing any infrastructure expansion. But this is this is more than previously explained to me, and that's why we're kind of jumping in. So let's see. Let me jump back up real quick. All right, so this is amending existing code, right? So again, when we see something get striked through, it is being removed from the existing code, and anytime we see something underlined, it's being added in. So in this case, we are replacing the word which and if we jump down, we're talking about the advisory board and who composes the advisory board. So we're removing the of the State Department of Labor and replacing it with Secretary of the State Department of Labor or his or her designee, so they can voluntarily put somebody in their place if they don't want to do the role themselves. The state health officer or his or her designee, again, we're adding flexibility for that officer to put somebody in their place. I'm not directly opposed to that. I'm curious why we swapped out the commissioner of the State Department of Labor to secretary. Curious what the importance there is, why that happened specifically. And then we have 10 members appointed by the governor rather than 9 are on the board as long as the governor is. So increasing my influence as governor for the board. Let's see. And these are qualifications, it looks like. Of the members appointed by the board, one shall be a representative of business, one shall be a representative of labor, one shall be a representative of medical professionals, 3 representatives of senior citizen organizations. They are adding that because we've added a seat from 9 to 10. One shall be a representative of an organization serving individuals with disabilities. I'm all for that. That sounds good. Remaining 3 shall be responsible residents of the state. They don't have to be citizens. Bravo. They don't have to be citizens. They can just live here. I like it because they get affected by this change anyway. So why not let them be on the board? Upon appointment, member of the board shall be inclusive and reflect the racial, gender, geographic, urban, rural, and economic diversity of the state. Sounds great. Name of any designee to the advisory board of directors authorized by this chapter shall be submitted in writing to the commissioner of the Department of Senior Services. Section 2, if any act of the legislature provides that the governor is designated as a member of a multi-member body, the governor may designate any individual to serve in his or her place. Okay, governor designee under subsection A, serve at the pleasure of the governor. Part C, this section applies to multi-member bodies in existence on the date of this act and any subsequently created. So any other bodies that get created. If any act of legislature provides that the director of finance is designated as a member, they can have a designee. That's fine. Director's designee, same thing. Same thing. So, cool. Okay. So did I miss? It's 255. I want to make sure I'm not House Bill 255. Oh, 2022. That's a completely different bill. That would be why. Come on, Jared. See, we all make mistakes, right? Yep.
everybody has
Well,
those
so I'm
days?
not used to using open states. I'm used to using the state state website, and it's currently acting up. All right, so let's open up the correct bill. It's like, this isn't, this doesn't seem to be related. And it wasn't. That would be why. Where's our enrolled PDF? Let's check this out. All right, let's see what our actual changes are. Sorry, we just read a year-old bill that wasn't actually related. So this looks like it is all new. It is changing sections 284, 285, and 287. The state authorized to grant federal award funds to any other source of funding designated for broadband infrastructure by state law to any public or private entity. The granting of funds is the same thing we read earlier. Let's see. They can change capitalization, spelling for uniformity. That's fine. Basically, what they're saying is when we bring it into Constitution, if Amendment 10 we talked about earlier, if that gets amended, they have a section in this bill that says, hey, the plan is to put it in the new Constitution. If we do, they can rearrange it. It can be changed capitals and everything else to make it make sense. An election upon the proposed amendment shall be held in accordance with sections 284, 285 of the Constitution of 1901, now appearing as 284, 285 of the recompiled Constitution. Official shall assign a ballot number. That's fine. There's a summary. Yeah, so it's literally, it is exactly what they said. So, Blue, if you're watching this, sorry. You knew exactly what it was, and I was reading the wrong bill, and that's fine. Yeah, on basic principle, I'm not a huge fan, but I also know that we desperately need to hire more broadband access. So, I'm here for it. I like the fact that we're not putting the effort in as a state ourselves. That's where I'm frustrated, because I don't know that we've tried to put broadband in as a state or as cities or as municipalities. I don't know how much effort has actually been attempted to use those monies, and it concerns me that potentially we just didn't spend it waiting for something like this to get passed so we can do a buddy a favor and get his company to install broadband, and then they siphon some of that federal grant money off instead of it going to workers here in Alabama who could be working for the state to put that stuff in. So, but we need internet at this point, and this isn't the negative side is a broader issue. It's not something this is going to fix the issue by saying no to this. I think it'll do more harm than good than saying no. So, or to say no. So I'm good with saying yes on this for me. Taylor, do you have questions now that we've read the right bill?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Kathy, are you talking about federal? Or are you talking about the existing seats that they already have? Because if it's the existing seats they already have, I'm with you on that one. All right.
I said or anybody.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Well, they were saying hold on to, meaning they already have. So that's.
Oh yeah. But I'm like, let's keep going left.
Kate actually asked a good question. So on Facebook, it looked like to install broadband in rural areas. So that could be cell towers that then bring in the internet through cell towers and then do Wi-Fi spots throughout. It could be running optical, like down highways. It could be all kinds of ways to do it. That's not my specialty. I'm not thoroughly well versed on how we would be bringing in the infrastructure, but my understanding is it would be things like is it Chattanooga that installed municipal broadband throughout the entire city and is effectively one of the ones that everybody looks up to for municipal broadband because they've done such a good job with it, supposedly. Yeah, there's multiple ways. Just anything that's not dial-up is considered broadband, and that's potentially troublesome because a company could say, "Hey, we're going to install broadband, and it's faster than dial-up, but it's not, the 100 megabits down or gigabit down or anything else. It just happens to be faster than dial-up, and they could potentially consider it broadband because there was no clarification in that bill. But again, that I think is a step in the right direction. We're actually adding faster speeds to people who are in rural areas. So I'm here for it. All right. So Amendment 3, we're proposing an amendment to the Constitution of Alabama to require the governor to provide notice to the Attorney General and to the victim's family prior to granting a reprieve or commutation of a person sentenced to death, and to void the reprieve or commutation if the governor fails to provide notice. And this may sound backwards, but I'm saying no to this, and it is on a few points. First, the big concern is in situations where some information may come to light the day of a death sentence being executed. If this were to pass, if there's not time to alert the family and the attorney general, you wouldn't be able to to put a stay in. Like, you wouldn't actually be able to stop it, and that's concerning. The flip side is, you know, from what I was hearing from Vote Blue, who's on TikTok, but was doing a great job covering most of the amendments, and we agree on a lot of things, just not all of them. Their point was, like, this hasn't happened in a really long time. Their concern is looking at it from a uh, protecting yourself or your state from somebody abusing this power, right? So they were worried about a nefarious actor on the last day of office granting a reprieve or commutation of a sentence, which means they could end up with just life without parole, or sorry, life with parole potentially. And if all of their other cards are laid out right, they could be granted parole, and somebody who was on death row could be let out um, on the last day of somebody's term in office, essentially. And A, it's not happened a ton, and B, our state doesn't seem to put people inside that uh, they would want to let go. If they wanted to let go, they would just do it earlier. I don't see how this is problematic in that regard. And then lastly, we have taken enough away from the position of governor, whether I get the position or not. We've actually restricted that the executive level or executive branch of our state more than most. And this is taking one more thing that the governor could use to help people and prevent that. That's where it's concerning, and like, this has happened a ton, and they're trying to stop something that happens all the time. It seems like it's a power grab. Uh, that's where I'm concerned. So that's where I'm at. I'm saying no. Taylor, you got any questions?
No, I'm good. No, I'm good.
All right, let's go to Amendment 4. So this one is proposing an amendment to the Constitution. The implementation date for any bill enacted by the legislature in a calendar year in which the general election is to be held, relating to the conduct of the general election, that it shall be at least 6 months before the general election. So basically, if any new laws get passed, a bill gets passed during an election year, then the change has to take effect more than 6 months before the election happens. And again, the way this was phrased to me, at least, was like, what happens if there's you know a disaster to it or something like that? And that's not how this reads for me. This reads a law change, not uh, a disaster piece. So what I did was pull up the bill, and we're just going to double check to see what actually changed. Let's make sure we have the right one this time, right? Let's see, 388 in 20. Let's make sure we're looking at the right one. 388 in 2021's regular session. Cool. All right. Let's see if there's anything that is being changed, or if it is just an amendment. Man, it is just an amendment. It doesn't make changes. It's just it's adding pieces in. So, and the state website's being weird, so I can't pull up. I can try to pull up the Constitution. Let's see. Let's see if it'll let me pull it up real quick. Ooh, it is working. All right, so we are looking for section 4, 285, 287. So let's 284, 285, and 287. Amendments proposed by the Constitutional Legislation in the following manner. Proposed amendments shall read in the House 3 days upon 3/5 confirmation, so on and so forth. Sorry, I'm skimming through several days. Vote in favor should be according to the qualified electors. The legislature shall an election by qualified electors of the state upon proposed amendments to be held either at the general election next succeeding session of the legislature at which the amendments are proposed, or on appointed by the legislature not less than 3 months after the final adjournment of the session at which the amendments were proposed. Notice of such election, together with the proposed amendment, shall be given by proclamation of the governor, shall be published in every county in such a manner the legislature shall direct, and for at least 8 successive weeks. Let's see, for at least 8 successive weeks, the next preceding the day appointed for such an election. Hold on. Published for at least successive. Okay, so they're saying 8 weeks. So it looks like we're pushing it out further from weeks to 6 months. Okay. On the day so appointed, election shall be held for the vote of qualified electors. It's fine if such election be election officers, such election shall be appointed. Election shall be held with all things according to the law governing the general elections. That makes sense. If all elections upon such amendments votes cast there shall be canvassed, tabulated, so on and so forth. Regular election things. Let's see. Yeah, so it looks like we're actually extending the timeline. Unless I'm misreading that, we're going from 8 weeks to 6 months. I don't know. I'm actually still kind of torn on this one. Let's look at the next section. 285. Upon the ballots used at all elections provided in 284, proposed amendment shall be printed. That's fine. Let's see. Following each proposed amendment, the ballot with the word yes and no. Choice of elector shall be indicated by a cross mark. That's fine. I don't see how that's changed though. How does this? Oh, so it just has to be approved within those rules. Okay. Yeah, so we're just adding a further delay on how long a bill has to be passed before it can be used if election year and it relates to election processes. I was hoping this would give us info on who voted. I want to see what that looked like. Just, I'm curious, like a cat. And the way that's still being done, so it won't go to the actual bill right now on the state site where you can see the voting history. But I don't know. I'm torn. I don't see this as problematic as previously discussed. It seems like a potential positive where you can't enact change immediately, right? So like right now, as I'm reading it, you could pass legislation and adjust how the elections work up until that 8-week period, because that's where you have to give notice. And now we're saying it has to be at least 6 months, and it's for election process. And that generally that seems like a good idea to give more time between when something passes and the election in which it's going to affect, and having a buffer sounds like a thing. I don't see a direct negative impact of this on why we would vote no.
I feel like you're having to read this and just think of what nefarious ways Alabama could muck this up.
Yeah, so I'm well, so like
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
so
that.
I guess this would prevent either side from modifying of the election rules with less than 6 months before the election. So like currently we have some pretty restrictive ways that we do our voting here. And in theory, if a further left leaning power took place in our state and wanted to make it easier for people to vote who should be able to, and they wanted to do it through a special session, that would be less than 6 months potentially before the election. They wouldn't be able to do it. Right.
Okay,
So I
I
mean,
see
there,
now.
but it works the other way too, where that you can't go more restrictive immediately right before an election because you don't like the way things are heading, right? So I don't like the fact that we're adding more things to a constitution and making it longer and making things more complicated. It has a direct negative. A direct negative. I don't have really even a plus or minus. I don't know. I'm gonna I think we're just gonna move on. I don't like questions. You guys are watching. Like, if you got questions, chime in. That's why we're here. We're in a discussion at this point because we're learning a little bit more about these in detail, and I'm still not sure on this one. So let's jump into Amendment 5. If somebody posts a question, I'll come back to it. But so Amendment 5, proposing an amendment to the Constitution to delete a provision giving the probate court of a general jurisdiction over orphans' business. Again, the way this was phrased to me is they were removing some language around orphan business, not actually, um, not actually
What is orphans
anything
business?
related to an orphan and having to go to like court, any legal proceedings, is my understanding. So it's hopefully open the right bill this time. 68 from 2021, Senate Bill 68 from 2021. And let's see if we are just removing things or if we are. Yeah. Okay. So there shall be a probate court in each county that shall have general jurisdiction of adoptions and the power to grant letters of testamentary and of administration and guardianships, and shall have such further guardian or jurisdiction as may be provided by law, provided that where the circuit court has jurisdiction of the settlement of an estate, it shall have power to do all things necessary settlement of such estate, including the appointment and removal of administrators, executors, guardians, and trustees, and including action up into the resignation of either of them. So what it did here though is they did remove the phrase orphans business, but I don't know if that it doesn't look like we replaced it. We just removed it as like what the probate court is in charge of.
Okay, somebody just said no
Yeah.
in big letters on the Tic Tacs.
So
No children.
okay, so Kate, thank you for chiming in because I know you know a bit more about this one, so thank you. My understanding is that orphan children care would no longer be in probate court and would be moved to the courts that decide adoptions. So it doesn't look like they added who would be handling it. They just said it's no longer probate courts. So is that like just a default, Kate?
Somebody said it's separate.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Well, it's a different court, right? But I'm trying to make sure because it doesn't specify who's going to be taking over orphan business, right? But
I really do not like
Kate,
that.
Here's my question. Still mention adoptions as something that's handled by probate court. So that's where I'm confused because how this was described to me previously was we were just removing the term orphan business, and we are from the legislation, we're like from the laws. And we're removing that from the law, but not necessarily what like redefining it. Man, Kate, I wish I could. Kate, can you jump in? can you, or are you willing to jump into the meeting? Because the text conversation back and forth, I'm not sure is going to be helpful. If you can give clarification. LB, if you go to the website, you can too. The link is on link in my bio. Go to events and meetings and go to the policy meeting, and there's a link directly to this Google Meet that we're having. Kate, the link that I just posted, you can click that link and open it up and jump in the meeting. Because that's where I'm lost. Because this is not, it's not my forte. It's not. Oh, okay. LB, you were talking about the fact they called it orphans business. Yeah, and I don't know that we're removing it entirely. It feels like we're removing the jurisdiction, not what we're calling that entire aspect of like how we handle orphans. And like, I just maybe it's the past 8 months of dealing with the state, but I just don't trust anything that comes out of our state legislature. Like I have a
I don't think that's unreasonable.
broadly speaking, it's really hard to just trust it. There's been some good legislation that's come out, like the extension of Medicaid coverage for postpartum Medicaid coverage, right? It's extended it to 12 months. That came through our state. Like that was great. I'm okay with good things coming out of our state. Just it's hard to just trust it when things don't make sense. It seems intentionally uh, opaque, the right word. It just doesn't. It seems like it's not clear, and that's usually a bad thing when people aren't very clear with what they're trying to do. All right, can join, please do. We're gonna move forward because I'm not clear on this. Like, I don't see that is literally the only change, and it's not clear on what's actually happening. It's super frustrating. Like the even the summary says essentially what we just said, right? So it like this is an amendment, and it's to delete a provision giving the probate court of each county general jurisdiction orphans business. It's not removing that language. It's not changing what that thing is. It's just changing the jurisdiction. And that's not how this was broadly to me. And that's where it gets frustrating. Kate, well, that's unfortunate. Dang. Let's see. HTTPS www.jaredgov.org/events meetings. I think that's the URL. I've typed it so many times in the last 6 months that it should be right. All right, Kate, try going to that link. We're going to skip forward to Amendment 6 while Kate hopefully joins us. All right, so let's jump into Amendment 6. This one is proposing an amendment to the Constitution of Alabama 1901 as amended. Each municipality authorized under Amendment number 8 of the Constitution of Alabama, appearing as Section 216.01, recompiled Constitution of Alabama as amended, to levy and collect an ad valorem tax pursuant to Amendment number 8 for the bonds and the interest thereon, and may also levy and collect such ad valorem tax and utilize such funds for capital improvements on a pay-as-you-go basis at a rate not exceeding the rate then lawfully permitted for the municipality to directly pay for the costs of public capital improvements, as well as to pay for principal and interest on bonds, warrants, and other securities issued to finance or refinance the costs of improvements, and to ratify, validate, and confirm the levy and collection of such tax levied and collected for any of these purposes prior to the ratification of this amendment. The shorter version that was explained is that this allows municipalities to pay for things as you go, rather than having to take out a giant loan at the rate you're currently at for the amount you think it's going to need, right? So it should let them break that into chunks, which could save them money. rather than having to assume the entire, let's say it's a 10-year project, having to assume that cost up front. They can break it into smaller chunks. If that's true, that sounds like a good plan. So Bill 178, House 178 from the 2021 legislative election or legislative session, House Bill 178, 2021, double uh, double checking our bills before we start reading through them. Let's see. It looks like it is not making changes. It is literally just adding this in, and it's verbatim what we just read. So there's no removing and adding words. It's just what we just read through. All right. So how deep do we go? So we have amendment number 8, or we could go to the new Constitution, section 216.01. Let's try the new Constitution, section 216.01. Really? Okay, there it is. All right. Do you see that wall of text? My goodness. All right. Municipalities of Tuscumbia, Sheffield, Hurtsboro, Silville, Lynette, Demopolis, Pell City, Heflin, Columbiana, so on and so forth. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. In the state of Alabama shall have the power and right to levy tax of 1/2 of 1% in any 1 year on property situated therein, based on the valuation of such property as assessed for state taxation for the tax year ending in the 30th day of September next, succeeding the levy. Provided that the purpose of paying bonds issued and outstanding at the time of the adoption of this amendment and its interest thereon, and for the purpose of paying bonds which may be issued after the adoption of this amendment and the interest thereon, an additional tax of 1/2 of 1% may be levied and collected by said corporations. Provided further that a majority of the qualified electors of any said municipal corporations voting on at an election called for that purpose may vote a special tax not to exceed 1/2 of 1% in any 1 year for any special purpose or purposes, which tax shall be used only for the purpose or purposes for which same is levied and collected. It feels like one long run-on sentence. Sorry, everybody. For the total tax be levied at any said municipal corporation shall not exceed 1.5% in any 1 year. Provided further that the adoption of this amendment shall in no ways affect, limit, modify, abridge, or impair the power, authority, or right of either of said municipal corporations to levy or collect special taxes now or hereafter vested in or conferred upon them or any of them under the Constitution or any amendment thereto, include said city of Selma to levy and collect taxes for schools and school purposes to in and conferred upon said city of Selma by the amendment to the Constitution adopted thereto at the general election held November 1916, and which was submitted under law number 315, General Laws 1915, page 337. Each election, the provisions hereof shall be ordered, held, canvassed, and may be contested in the same manner as is or may be provided by the law applicable to the municipal corporations for elections to authorize the issuance of municipal bonds. The ballots used at such election shall contain the words for excess rate of taxation for the year or years and against excess rate of taxation for the years or years. The rate of taxation proposed in excess of the rate of 1% shall be shown in the blank space provided therefor, and the year and years in which the proposed rates will be applied. Man. And in the event different excess rates are proposed for different years, the words mentioned shall be repeated as often as may be necessary to show separately that different rates proposed for different years. Okay. All right. This is saying there's very strict limits on how much they can charge. And if we jump back to Amendment 6, we're not changing the rate. right? So it just says they can collect a rate that's lawfully permitted. So they're not changing the amount that you can charge. And it looks like it is just changing the fact that they can prepay for things, or pay as you go. Sorry, not prepay. They can do a pay as you go. I think we're good.
I truly have no idea of what.
No, it's fine.
You
No,
lost
I
me.
mean, again, I'm of the opinion of what somebody said earlier. Like, we just need a new constitution because it's we're limiting things based on cities and counties into our state constitution. Like, what I want to point out here, I think we need a new constitution. So, like, we're gonna say this is related to Section 216, right? And Section 216 stuff, who this affects. Literally, I'm in Baldwin County, and I can vote on this, but it does not affect me.
Usually they don't do that.
Depends.
Okay.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, this is a statewide vote because it's an amendment to the Constitution. So what is, like, local laws that are being applied, and it's not amending the Constitution. We're amending our Constitution to change. Oh no, yeah, separation strategy had all the time. Yes, it's just dumb. And it affects Tuscany, Hurtsboro, Russellville, Lynette, Demopolis, Pell City, Heflin, Clinton, Opelika, Fairhope, Pine Hill, Scottsboro, Stevenson, Ashland, Bruton, Pollard, Flomaton, Atmore, Inglenook, Tuskegee, Ashland. Do not touch that, please. Thank you. Gordo, Reform, Livingston, Camden, Monroeville, Phoenix, and Girard, Birmingham, Bessemer, Florence, Huntsville, Selma, Fairfield, Anniston, Athens, Jacksonville, Auburn, Carbon Hill, and Lafayette. But it does not affect me. Right? But I can vote on it. Please leave. All right. Anyway, so that is it allows people to pay as you go, or municipalities to pay as you go. So it sounds good. I don't have any major opposition. It doesn't sound like we're restricting anything. We're giving people more options, or municipalities. So I'm going to say, sure, let's go for it. People that have looked into it further summed it up pretty well based on what I'm reading here. So let's see. The next one. Oh, I think somebody's trying to jump in. Yeah, Kate. Sweet. All right, Kate. We got you in.
I'm not so techno savvy after
That's 7
p.m. So can I mention the orphans just real quick?
One more time.
I just gotta. So can I mention? I went off your meeting for a little bit, but can I mention?
Oh yes, please.
Orphans,
yeah. So we're gonna go back to orphans business.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. And I'm gonna mute for just a second, but keep going.
Sure. Okay. So, I have a friend who works in adoption and is very knowledgeable. So, my understanding is the juvenile courts.
Reese just got in trouble.
The juvenile courts handle a lot of the adoptions, but when it comes to when the parents pass or when parents' rights are terminated, they temporarily go to the probate courts. And so this is a move to have everything moved to juvenile court, according to that friend, which I agree with personally. Like having too many courts in child custody and child business is hard. So that's my understanding anyway.
Taylor, did that make sense to you? Because I was trying to get my 7-year-old to leave the room.
I actually texted your wife and said, think reached Michael. So
Okay.
I didn't catch it.
Can you say it one more
I
time?
think
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
I'll say it again.
Sorry.
Okay, so there's different types of like custody when it comes to when children lose their parent, right? So some are adoption, some are in foster care, and I feel like orphan is kind of a dated term, but so orphaned is when both parents' rights, both parents that have custody, biological parents' rights are terminated, or they leave some other way. And so with foster care and adoption, it's the juvenile court, but for some reason, the orphan individuals go to juvenile court, and then they go to probate court, and then back to juvenile court. So that's my understanding of what my friend in adoption was telling me, is that this is a move to have it all in juvenile court.
Okay. Because it still leaves adoption in probate court according to the paperwork. So if let me pull it back up because I didn't close the tabs. I just moved forward. So that was Amendment 3.
I think I just so Facebook just, and that's a long story, kept me from texting, but I just sent someone else named Jared my conversation. But I have the conversation pictured. So let's see if I can send it in a message here. Let's see.
It's number
How about
5.
this not? Maybe.
Yeah, so it's Amendment number 5. Okay.
So I mean, I can ask, I can ask them again. I can ask that question again because I know a different part of
Yeah.
adoption than they do, but they
No,
won't
that's
let me
okay.
send the picture.
Yeah,
I
so
gotta
if
figure
you
this
can
out.
get them in touch with me, I'd love to know because I'm trying to make videos about these after I've made up my mind at least as best I can, so that I can share my perspective because people want to hear it. So I'm trying to get my
Right.
my head wrapped around this one, and it doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like it's doing what I was told it's doing. So I was told it was removing problematic language, and it does. It removes some language from the Constitution, but it also, the purpose says that we're removing jurisdiction. And if the purpose is to put it all in one place, that's fine. But they're still showing that not orphans, but that adoptions are handled by probate court. And it's just orphans that are being pulled away from probate court. And I'd be curious why orphans would be pulled away somewhere different than adoptions. Why they both wouldn't go to another, the other court.
Right.
I'm still here.
Are you
Yep.
still there? Okay. Let me pull up
Sure.
what he said.
Yeah, if you got it.
Just a moment. Okay. Yeah, I took a picture of it. I'm just kind of. It
That's
takes
okay.
me time. How many pictures do I have? Okay. Library. Okay. This is what he said. Quote. But I'm not going to say his name. I would imagine that the language is problematic. We have very few actual orphans, and in cases where child is orphaned, parental rights have been terminated. The probate judge doesn't actually have jurisdiction until those cases. Juvenile court does until a petition for adoption is filed. So a petition for adoption has to be filed. Then it's probate. So juvenile court until a petition of adoption has been filed, and then it goes to probate. I think this is an attempt to have all dependency, adoptions, etc., under juvenile court and the family court system. Sometimes we have situations where the juvenile court has issued an order in a case, and a probate court has issued an order for the same child. Since these courts systems don't communicate with each other, it makes it messy. I'm not sure that I'm on board with eliminating the probate judge's role in adoption, but I know that the adoption code is currently being rewritten, so this may be a part of that.
Yeah, that I hear what that person is saying, but that's not what it That's what it looks like to me, though, and that's where it gets confusing. Because this one, like
Okay.
the current as it stands, if we don't adjust anything with the amendment, the current law, the current constitutional section says there shall be a probate court in each county, which shall have general jurisdiction of orphans' business and of adoptions, and with power to grant letters of testamentary and of administration of guardianships and so on and so forth. So, like, it's saying that probate already has general jurisdiction of all of these, and we're only removing orphans'
Right.
business, and that's where I'm getting well, confused
Confused.
as to why we're only
Yeah.
removing one. Like, if the idea is to put everything in one place, then why did we leave adoptions? Like that, it feels
Right.
it
I
feels
hear you.
odd. And I'll be very transparent. My concern is that, you know, our Department of Human Resources, the director, I don't remember her title. My concern is that, like, when they list her as a part of the governor's cabinet currently, the feature, the accomplishment that they tout is an increase in adoptions, and for me that seems like the wrong thing to be proud of. I would rather us be doing less adoptions, and not that I don't know, or not that I don't understand that people, you know, there's sometimes adoptions make sense. It feels weird to be proud of having to have more adoptions. Like we should be wanting to have less adoptions. In my head, we would generally not a zero, but having less, because we've got people who can take care of the children that they have, and that they're having the children that they want to, like, they're having children if they want them, and they're not feeling like they have to put them up for adoption, or they're being taken away and being put into a foster care system. It feels backwards to be
Right.
proud of more adoptions.
So I work I work secondary for APAC, which is the adoption. I do the home studies for those are the adoptions
Yeah.
through DHR. And I gotta say, like, you know, when we think of adoption, stereotypically we think of infants. And so my position is adoption is traumatizing. It's a traumatic event. For even if you're adopted at 0 days
Yeah.
old, it's traumatic. But the children who are adopted through the state are generally not infants. They're generally children with
Right.
disabilities. So just kind of put it out there that we don't take care of our children with
Yeah.
disabilities, kind
No,
of.
I agree. The phrase that I keep hearing from people who have gone through the system across the country, not just our state necessarily, but uh, they they tout themselves as survivors of the foster care system, and that is
Hmm.
troublesome. Like, when that's, you know, it's
Right.
not like, you know, formally, you know, a part of the system. It's like, no, we survived. Like, we made it. And it's like, man, that
Right. We could
yeah.
definitely be better.
So, and
Yeah.
that's a system problem, not a person problem. You know, we know each other. Like, it's not a nothing against anybody who works in there directly.
Right.
The system isn't doing what we're told it's supposed to. So,
Well, I mean, I think the foster care system was just sued. So
was that
there's no,
was
we
that
can't
ours or
defend
just
it now.
the overall system?
Yeah, that was the Alabama foster care system was just sued.
Okay.
Mhm. For, I
No,
don't
I
know if you
didn't.
heard
I'm
about
making
that.
a note to look into it.
Okay, so it's kind of breaking my brain a little bit. So, and you can look it up. They were just sued October 12th from the American Disabilities Act for violating the Americans Disability Act. And my understanding is that the children in foster care who had mental health problems so these are children also with disabilities, were given improper education compared to their other peers in
They're
foster care that
they're
didn't have
able-bodied
emotional
able-bodied and
trouble.
minded peers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were just sued. So I don't know what's going to come about
Yeah.
from that. But I think that makes this law a little bit more important to
Yeah.
think about, maybe. And I see if this person
That'd be
will
great.
speak with you, and I'm going to try to see if I can speak with the people at APAC about, you know, understanding
Yeah.
this law too.
And if they would like to, if they are willing to do it publicly, so that other people can learn along with me, and I'm not just rehashing.
I don't think
Gotcha.
they can
No, understood.
publicly,
No, so
honestly.
it's a big if, especially if they are
Yeah.
deep in the system, so to speak. because I don't know who you're talking about. But if they can, cool. If not, then we can have a private conversation, and I will take detailed notes to relay the information. So cool. All right. Well,
Thank you for listening, though.
no, thank you for jumping on. Like that's why I want more people to do this. I wish more politicians would, because I know they're having these meetings. Like they don't know everything. You can't. You have to have these types of meetings.
Right.
And if they would do it publicly, we could all learn with them rather than having to guess at why they're making decisions. So you can disagree, like people can disagree with why I'm going to, support or oppose an amendment, but at least you understand why. I'm not just saying, hey, vote no for this. It's like, well, here's what it says. Here's why I'm worried, or here's why I want to see it happen. And, make your own decision. But I would much rather people be able to actually see why. There's not enough transparency in politics in general. I don't think anybody watching this disagrees with that. There might be a few, but not many.
Yeah, I hear you.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna jump back in and move forward a little bit. Kate, you can hang on the call if you want to, or you can jump back on social media, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to social. I don't know. I want to see your little
Cool.
slides. So
sounds good.
I'm gonna hang up here. Okay.
All right. So, Abby, did we discuss Amendment 1 at very beginning? So, when this is over, you can jump back in. The brief summary is I'm not a fan of that amendment because it is restricting innocent people's access to bail unilaterally, which is saying you don't get bail if you are charged with a crime. There's no conviction yet, so they are innocent and they're being prevented from having bail, and that's problematic for me. If you want the detailed long explanation, you can check out the beginning of the video, or wait for me to publish the 30 or 60-second version. Well, I'll be making those soon. Yeah. All right. So Amendment 7, I think, is where we left off. Is that right? Exercises the ability for... no, that is actually something different. So we were on 6. So let's jump back. All right, so that's bonds. So Amendment 6, we're jumping back. Thanks, Kate. Amendment 6 is regarding being able to pay as you go to make improvements in your municipality. So cities, counties, the entire state, letting them use money to pay off pay as you go debt rather than having to do an entire giant long debt. That's what it sounds like. So that's it sounds like a good idea. I didn't see any. It's not changing the amount they can tax people or anything like that. It's not adjusting that. It's just where the money can go, and it's paying as go rather than long-term debt. So it sounds good. If you have feedback on that and I missed something, feel free to let us know. But that's how that reads for me. So amendment number 7, House Bill 458 from 2022's regular legislative session, proposing an amendment to revise Amendment 772 of the Constitution of 1901 to specify that all municipalities may exercise the authority and powers granted by Amendment 772 to provide for economic and industrial development, to permit notice for Amendment 772 published in any newspaper in circulation in the county or municipality, and to ratify all actions and agreements of a county or municipality done under Amendment 772, unless subject to pending jurisdiction or judicial proceedings on the date of the adoption of this amendment. So we have to go look at the current Constitution's Amendment 772 to make any kind of sense of this. So let's do that real quick. I'm not going to open that in a new tab. We'll do this manually. So 772. Nope. We're already almost an hour and a half into this, so we are not going to read this entire amendment. Skim through real quick. Let's see. Public funds to purchase, lease, or otherwise acquire real property, buildings, plants, factories, improve development properties for industry of any kind, industrial park projects, construction of roads, drainage, sewers, sewage, and waste disposal systems, parking areas, utilities, lease, sell, grant, exchange, or otherwise convey on terms approved by the governing body, county, or municipality, all or any part of real property, buildings, plants, factories. Okay. So you can use public funds to purchase and lease and otherwise acquire it. You can also lease, sell, grant, or exchange those properties, lend credit to, or grant public funds and things of value in aid of or to any individual, firm, or corporation, public or private, for the purpose of promoting economic or industrial development of the county or property. Our amendment then? What do we change? We got too many tabs open. That's what it is. Let's in here. All right, let's jump in and list again. Nope, that is not it. 458 of 2022. And again, I tried to put the wrong year. So let's go back. HB 458 of 2022. We're going to open the enrolled and the amendments just in case. It is not this one, not this one. All right. So we are revise requirements for incurring indebtedness for economic development, revise requirement publication of notices. So we are, here's the changes. The governing body of any county or municipality shall have continuing power to do any of the following. That is a change from any county and the governing body of any municipality located therein, for which a local constitutional amendment has been adopted authorizing any of the following. Okay, so we are removing weird restrictions on municipalities, right? So we've talked about in the past, the Constitution tends to cluster things together and say, hey, this county can do something, this city can do something. This is broadening the ability and power of a municipality. So all of them have the same abilities, rather than saying you have to be amended into the Constitution to be allowed to do this thing, which is using public funds to purchase and lease things, purchase and acquire properties and utilities. Then you can also lease them out, so on and so forth. Let's see. We are then removing the word heretofore. Cool. And we've added honor before adoption of this amendment. That's fine, because we're adding a new amendment. So we're changing some language to include this. That's fine. Let's see. Become indebted and issue bonds, warrants, notes, and other obligations or evidences of indebtedness to an aggregate outstanding principal amount not exceeding an equal amount of 50% of the assessed value of taxable property here therein, as determined for state taxation, in order to secure funds for the purchase. So we are removing the ability to go into debt and issue bonds that may be payable from funds to be realized in future years. So we're removing the future potential. And we're adding an aggregate outstanding principal amount not exceeding an equal amount to, or an amount equal to 50% of the assessed value. That part I don't quite understand what they're actually trying to do there. All right. Evidence of, let's see, I skip a little bit. The bonds, warrants, notes, and other obligations or evidences of indebtedness issued here under do not constitute an indebtedness of the county or any municipality for the purpose of determining the borrowing capacity of the county or municipality under this Constitution. It's a language shift from shall not be considered to do not constitute. That's a legalese change. Not entirely sure if that's concerning or not? Don't know. If anybody has any thoughts, put it in, because I don't see a layman's difference between those two. Concerning they would change it. Not sure what the reality is. All right, here we're also saying any county or municipality again. That's fine. Let's see. Section 94 and 95 of this Constitution shall not, or nor shall a county or municipality be required to comply within the provisions of Section 222 of the Constitution unless issuing generation bond instruments establish requirement for repayment. So it looks like we're changing it from specific counties to more counties, or municipalities, I should say. E-corporation created by the county or by any municipality located therein on or before the adoption of this amendment. Yeah, we're adding language because of the change to adoption. The powers granted by this amendment may be exercised as an exclusive alternative to or cumulative with, and in no way restrictive of, powers otherwise granted by the Constitution or any law in the county. Okay, so we're saying this is exclusive, separate powers from it's already there. That's fine. Let's see. Neither the county or municipality located shall lend its credit to or grant any public funds or thing of value or in aid of any private entity under the authority of this amendment unless prior to doing so both of the following are satisfied. So the action proposed to be taken to the county or municipality is approved by public meeting. At least 7 days prior to the public meeting, a notice is published in a newspaper in circulation. Oh, that's dirty. Okay, so sounds not okay, this part. So you have to meet your requirements in order to use municipal credit or grant funds or anything from the municipality to be used. You have to satisfy two things. You have to have a public vote, and you have to tell the public about the vote. The previous language says a notice published in the newspaper having the largest circulation in the county or municipality. And that has now been changed to remove the newspaper to a newspaper. And they've stricken having the largest circulation to in circulation. So they're basically saying it no longer has to be the largest circulation. It has to be just a newspaper in circulation in the county. That seems like they're wanting, or they're okay with less people being told about the vote. And that's problematic for me. Let's see. For the purpose of foregoing any sale, lease, or other property for price equal to its fair market value, they changed the to its. I think that's fine. Any action taken or agreement made under Amendment 772 by any municipality prior to the date of this amendment is ratified and confirmed in all respects at date, except to an extent that its validity is being challenged in appropriate judicial proceedings in any court of competent jurisdiction on the date of this amendment, when it's ratified. So they're saying everything's fine unless something's questionable when this is all happening and going down to being amended. Let's see. That's fine. Scrolling through. Okay. So there is one part that seems messed up. I don't like the change in how people are notified, especially since it's still limited to newspapers. It doesn't mention any other way that you have to let people know that a vote is to use your municipality's funding to do a thing. It is literally only has to be published in a newspaper that is in circulation in that municipality. So county, city, whatever. I don't like it. Gut reaction, but I don't like it. I like that they're giving everybody the same power to help out with economic and industrial development. Like, that sounds great. But they're then letting people know what they're about to do. And that's concerning. Man, it's one of those it lets more municipalities expand, but they could do it in nefarious ways. Taylor, what do you think? You have any thoughts? You still here with me?
I have lots of thoughts, but I'm gonna have to read them. I'll have to read them on my own because listening, I
Yeah,
don't
no, that's fair
retain
enough.
as much. So.
Man, my gut says yes, because I don't like restricting the ability for municipalities to make their own decisions. The concern, they could do it in different ways, but right now we're restricting what they can do and only allowing certain municipalities to have the ability to use some of those funds in that way, is the way I'm reading it. So I think right now I'm leaning towards yes. I'll make a more definitive answer before I record a video, but on 7, I'm putting a yes with a question mark or an asterisk next to it, because it overall it seems like the right move. I don't know if that's one of those times that I should be listening to that gut reaction of like, hey, it's Alabama, they passed a law and it sounds questionable, maybe you should consider that.
That's what saying it's sad that you have to think how can my state screw
Yeah,
this.
they still have to give notice, so it's not like they no longer have to give notice at all. It's just they don't have to put it in the most public area, which is, it's concerning. So, but that's honestly, so the way I look at that though is that is a concern with the local municipality and the people they're voting into office. So we're letting the power of the people be exercised there, rather than restricting them from being able to do things because the state has restricted things. So it feels like the right move. If you're seeing this and I've completely misread this amendment and I'm way off base, please schedule a meeting and talk to me as quickly as possible, because we only have like 21 days as of recording before we have to vote on these. And nobody else seems to want to cover these in detail. So here I am doing it from the campaign trail. So Amendment 7, I think we're gonna call it a yes for now. The next one is Shelby County specific. So not in Shelby County. This doesn't affect you, but you get to pick. You get to influence Shelby County. Relating to Shelby County, proposing amendment to the Constitution of Alabama to bring certain privately owned sewer systems that use public rights of way as public roads under the jurisdiction of the Public Service Commission under certain conditions. So it looks like we're bringing private sewer systems under public control under certain conditions if they're using public resources like roads. That reads as it was described to me previously, and I'm going to double check my notes. I think it was just a yes, even though it doesn't directly affect me. But it sounds like we're giving. I didn't put a yes or a no. Fun times. I'm going to like doing gut instinct. Let's see if we can find the actual bill. So Bill 74 from 2021. And I know this meeting is going longer than later. So Taylor, thank you for hanging out longer. Thank you everybody else who's still watching. Not commenting a ton, but you're still here. So either you're sleeping or you're listening, and I'll take it on the second half. If you're sleeping, I need you to wake up. We only have 21 days.
Hey Jared, what's the website? Your fave wifey said not to sound ignorant, but how would I find these amendments so I can look into them before voting?
Oh yeah.
What website?
Actually, they are hosted on the state. You're not ignorant. You're good. They're hosted on the state's website. So your best bet, Secretary of State's website, your best bet is to search 2022 general election ballot measures. And one results, if not the first result, should be a link to an overview page that says, hey, here are the 10 amendments. Here's the recompile. And it links to the overview PDFs that we're reviewing in the meeting. Those are shortened versions. So they give a summary of roughly what's happening. The only way to find the actual details is to go open the original bills that were passed in the legislature previously. So the summary thing that we're reading off of initially tells you which bill. For that, normally I would use the state's website, Allison's. It's called Allison Database. It's been down for a day and a half or so I can't do that. I've been using Open States, which pulls that information from the state and is a separate repository of information. They just pull it from there and store it separately, and I'm so thankful for them right now because it's another access point for having access to these PDFs and things. So yes, please do go look it up. A, don't just take my word for it, but B, that was LeVar Burton quoting Reading Rainbow. Don't take my word for it, but also, I don't want you to think things just because I do, right? All right, so Senate Bill 74 from the year 2021. Let's do Senate Bill. Did I say 74? Is that what I said? Yeah, Senate Bill 74 from 2021. That's this one. We'll scroll to the bottom, and we're going to look at the enrolled PDF. So it's the final version that got enacted. And let's see if this is. So there's no changes. It is just a great amendment, and it is long. It's a couple pages long. So I'm going to advise everybody just go read through it because we're already an hour and 40 minutes in, and this is like 3 pages worth of an amendment. But it looks like the right thing to do based on the summary, which those can be tricky. So go look those up. I'm going to leave my computer to find out later and keep reading into it. Amendment number 9. This is the last one that is an actual amendment and relating to Jefferson County and Tuscaloosa County, an amendment to the Constitution of 1901 to bring certain privately owned sewer systems that use public rights-of-way of public roads in the city limits of Lakeview under the jurisdiction of the Public Service Commission, beginning January 2023 and ending December 31st, 2027. So this one's got a time limit on it, and the other one doesn't. That's interesting to me that we have a time limit on one, but not the other, and it's basically doing the same thing. Again, the bill may go into more detail and may have other limitations. Go pull them up, especially if you're in Jefferson County or Tuscaloosa County or Shelby County. These are related to you specifically. My understanding and my understanding is that this is related to the sewer systems that basically went bankrupt previously, and they're trying to help recover that by bringing it back under state control rather than it being private.
Don't we already have to pay extra on like water bills and shit?
I mean, if it's private, yeah, there's profit involved, so I would assume so, yeah. But this doesn't change that aspect. It just changes they are under the jurisdiction of the Public Service Commission. So again, read through the actual amendments. 8 and 9. 8 is Shelby County. 9 is Jefferson County and Tuscaloosa County, specifically within the city limits of Lakeview. Very, very niche coverage area. But if I had to guess, I'm going off of previous history. It sounds like they were having problems and they're trying to recover from those. Again, could be wrong. And then for anybody who just tuned in later and didn't catch the very first part of this, Amendment 10 is contingent on voting yes to the recompiled Constitution. And if we vote yes on Amendment 10, any of the amendments 1 through 9 that are voted yes also get added to the recompiled Constitution as a part of the Constitution and aren't added as amendments to the newly adopted Constitution. So number 10 is trying to make sure the new Constitution we just brought together and recompiled stays recompiled and isn't immediately amended in the same year that it's brought into life, essentially. So if you're voting, I don't see a negative side. If you're voting yes on these amendments and you're voting yes on the recompiling, you would, I assume, want to vote yes on number 10. I don't know why you would want amendments immediately after just recompiling to try and make it make more sense. So that's what I'll say on that. All right. we are an hour and 45 minutes into this. It's normally an hour-long meeting, but we are so close to the elections. I wanted to make sure we dove into these a bit further. Uh, I I apologize that the state website was down for the last day and a half, and I wasn't able to get into the nitty-gritty on some of these before our meeting. So it took a little longer than I wanted to. Hopefully that will be fixed soon, and I can get back to looking up things the way I'm used to, rather than using third-party resources, which sometimes are better if you're used to using them, which I wasn't. So if anybody has any questions, please pop them in the chat. TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, not Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. Put them in the chat if you have questions. I'll let it go for another couple more minutes while questions come in. Otherwise, we're going to end the live stream in about, we'll give it 10 minutes. And we'll give it 15. We'll say 9 o'clock. Why not? Taylor, what are your thoughts? What do you got?
My thoughts are I'm gonna have to go read all that.
Yeah. There's a lot to catch up on. Chaotic, hi. Amanda, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. I think that was in reference to my joke earlier about people not having questions, which it's fine. It's a lot to take in at one time.
I was about to say it's a lot to digest.
But like, so one of the reasons I'm doing is I mentioned the fact that there was 10 amendments coming up on the ballot, and somebody I know in real space was like, "I'm sorry, what?" I was like, there's 10 amendments that are going to be on the ballot for the entire state to vote on top of the recompiled Constitution. And they're like, "I need to get busy." It's like, "Yep, you should," because they're not simple. Yeah. Griffin, you have too many questions. Well, pick one. You've got my ear. Pick one. Amanda just moved to Alabama, desperately trying to get caught up before voting. Welcome to the state.
Oh.
My gosh. So the big ones for me, while we wait on Griffin to put in a question or two, hopefully, let's run back through. So Amendment 1 for me is a no. It's restricting bail access to innocent people. Like, we have to, and I don't think I mentioned this during the stream earlier, but like, we're talking about pretrial bail, right? So we're talking about people that are currently awaiting trial, and certain charges for crimes, meaning they've been charged with a crime, but they haven't gone to actually, yeah. So Griffin, that's what we're talking about. Amendment 1. So they have been charged with a crime, and most of the ones that are listed are traditionally violent crimes, first degree violent crimes. I don't like using the phrase, but it's helpful in broad discussions, right? The new amendment would automatically remove bail as an option for those. So if you are charged with that crime, you cannot make bail. You have to wait for your trial. And the thing I want to point out is in 2019, so this is pre-COVID, so before there were further complications with getting trials done efficiently, the average pre-trial incarceration rate or duration was 135 days. So if you're charged and end up being innocent, you don't have, with the new amendment, with Amendment 1 being voted on or voted in, you don't have access to bail. So you have to go 135 days or more, maybe less, but whatever, average of 135 days of being incarcerated, even though you're innocent. And that's my concern, is there's too much potential for harm. And it doesn't address the problem that everybody has, and they're calling it Anaya's law, but it doesn't address directly what happened to Anaya. It would address that one circumstance where somebody was let out on bail and committed another horrendous crime, but it doesn't address why the crime happened in the first place. And like, I keep harping on that every time we talk about something, but it's like, we're not addressing the actual causes of crime. We're trying to we're being reactionary, and it's not the right approach. How often does someone that has committed a violent crime get proven innocent? More than once, which is my problem. Like, there are innocent people that end up incarcerated, waiting for trial, and some that end up innocent and end up going to prison. and it's not addressing the real problem, and that's my concern. Those people are innocent until they're proven guilty, and you're not proven innocent. You're proven guilty. That's how it's supposed to work. You are innocent until you're proven guilty, supposedly. It's the way it's supposed to work, right? So, and that's not. It's a common misconception. That's the way we look at it. Even though we know that phrase, a lot of people look at it as like, oh, well, they got charged with unaliving somebody. It's like, man, like, is it worth the risk of letting someone violent get bail? But the problem is we don't know that person is guilty of that violent crime. They are only charged with it. So think about it this way, and it's only first degree. So in some situations, your charge could get bumped through circumstance and gray area based on who's prosecuting you, because you're getting charged with something. Like it's not directly based on necessarily evidence. Like it is very very gray. I don't find it morally complicated because we're talking about innocent people. And like, I get it, we're worried about crime happening, but let's address the reason the crime happens, not put a system in place that automatically punishes everyone who gets charged. There's discretion to do this in the law already. Judges can make this happen now. We are making it automatic with this new amendment. Amanda, you think it would be worth the risk? Yeah, it's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, but it's even the problem I have is it's being touted as a way of avoiding a potential recurrence of what happened to Anaya, and it doesn't address the reason it happened. Right? Like if someone is going to unalive someone, not everyone is going to have a prior charge that they're waiting to be convicted of. Right? It doesn't solve the unaliving problem. It only solves it for a very small portion. And I don't know a percentage. I don't know if there is one because we don't have stats like that I'm aware of. So that's where I'm at. And Abby, if you stuck around on Facebook, I just rehashed my whole thing with Amendment 1. So, but Griffin wasn't here. So it was good. Cover it with 2 people. All right. Amendment 3. This requires the governor to give notice. Requires the governor to give notice to the family and the attorney general, family of the victims, and the attorney general if postponing or giving reprieve or commuting a death sentence. And again, we have to think about how this could negatively impact innocent people. We have people that are on the death penalty or on death row who there are times where evidence comes through very late in the game, like day of the execution, potentially petitions from family members, petitions from the world saying, hey, this shouldn't be happening. You should grant a stay of execution. You should give them a lesser sentence, give them life with parole, pick one. And if we enact this, you have to give notice to the family of the victims and the attorney general. And if something were to happen on the day of the execution, you can't do those. So the power of saving that person from an execution is pulled away from the executive level. And something I need, especially people that aren't familiar, our state has pulled a ton of power away from the executive branch already, including pardons and paroles. That's not something the governor can do. That's something that used to be the governor's control and is no longer in our state, unlike other states and at the federal level. So our state continually pulls power away from the executive level and puts it in other areas. And again, the red flags are going up for me, where it doesn't sit right with the possible negative implications, especially with our state, with Joe Nathan James. Literally, the family of the victim was saying, don't do this. Like, don't do it today. And if it were me and I was coming into office on the day of the execution, I couldn't do anything. And I couldn't have said no. And that's concerning. So that's where I'm at. Let's jump to the next one, Amendment 4. This is a 6-month blackout period before an election for any new legislation that is related to election processes. So in session, if our legislature enacts a new bill, passes a new bill related to the election process, that has to take effect 6 months or earlier if this is passed. And right now, there is no limit. The closest thing is essentially a period of notice that you have to tell people, and I think it's 8 weeks. I'm going off memory at this point, but I think it was 8 weeks before the election. So we're taking the ability to enact change through law from 8 weeks before an election to making it mandatory 6 months. And I don't like that we're preventing change when our state is already restrictive. It seems like they are stemming the tide. Like if something were to go another direction, they don't want people making changes right before an election that could benefit the state. Because this is really only going to affect special sessions. The regular session happens 7 months. It ends 7 months before the elections normally happen. So our general session ends in like May or April, depending on the year. April 7th this year. So it feels like we're preventing special sessions from enacting bills that could influence election process, which could be used to actually give people more rights during the elections rather than taking stuff away. So that's a no for me. The rest of them, I think, were up in the air. Taylor, do you remember any of the other ones?
Was it number 7 that you couldn't
Yeah, let me
remember?
pull up number 7 real quick. That was industrial development. So this is the one where you have to notify a newspaper, not the newspaper, but now you can notify a newspaper when you're going to spend public funds as a municipality. It's concerning. I want to learn more before I say yes or no. The broad scope of what they're doing, it sounds like a yes. It's concerning that they want to say you can not tell as many people as possible. But I think where we landed was a yes. Like I think we landed on the benefits.
I remember one
Yeah,
of
the
them
benefits I
were.
think outweigh that possibility because local elections can fix who's in office, whereas right now not every municipality has access to do things that certain other municipalities have. So this one broadens the who can spend their funds and do things, but happens to give an out where they don't have to tell people as publicly. So I think it's a yes. I just hate that they put in that ability to kind of hide it from people. So 7 for me is a yes. So broader municipal control, I think, is the right way to phrase that. But it's less public. Oversight isn't the right word. It's awareness, probably. I'll rephrase before I do the video. All right. Number 5 was. Oh, that's Orphan's Business. So we're waiting to hear back more, hopefully, from Kate or Kate's friend. So Kate, if you're still here. And they put burglary in that too. Oh, yeah. That's because it can involve a dangerous instrument. We're jumping back to Amendment 1. It includes First Amendment burglary. And it's like, or First Amendment, first degree burglary, because it involves a dangerous instrument, essentially. You have to go read the full description, but they're calling it dangerous. So violent. Amendment 5 is Orphan Business. Kate, looking forward to hear from your person so I can learn some more of that before I make a decision. Amendment 6, let's run back real quick. This one is pay as you go. So spending your existing taxes, you're not adding the ability to tax more. It's still limited to the same amount, for better or worse, but we're not arguing over whether or not we're taxing people more. It's just how you can spend that tax money. And it's allowing people to spend, allowing municipalities to spend that funding on a pay-as-you-go basis rather than just longer-term contracts. So that one was a yes for me. unless somebody convinces me otherwise. But everybody I've talked to that seems to be on, we generally agree on things. They're pointing to a yes also. And everything I read sounds like a yes. So, all right, Amendment 6, and that is it's a yes from me. All right, 8 and 9. We'll go through that real quick. 8 and 9, Shelby County and Tuscaloosa County, and it wasn't Limestone. What was the other one? Shelby, Jefferson, and Tuscaloosa. Those are sewer situations. Go look it up if you're in one of those counties, because they definitely relate to you. But yet the state gets to vote on whether or not you can do it. So, or it affects you rather. And then 10 we already covered. So I think we're good. If everybody's still watching and has questions, you have 1 minute, and we are ending the live stream. And we will see you again on Saturday. Saturday, if you're in Bay Minette, if you're in Baldwin County or Mobile County, I should say, not Bay Minette. The event is in Bay Minette. There is another Unity Day to honor O.J. French, who was taken out by the police in Bay Minette back in August, I believe. Started with a traffic stop for a malfunctioning or broken taillight, which turned into a altercation that ended his life. So there's an event there because the powers that be do not want to release body cam footage, even though we have it. And no one understands how, no one understands why a taillight turned into losing a 32-year-old man's life. So they're having another event to honor his life and continue to demand information from the city of Bay Minette. So if you're in the area, show up. It's from like 11 to 3, I believe, in Bay Minette. There's an event. Look for Unity Day. Search for O.J. French. It's at a school. I'm hoping that they have a better address listed, because they just listed the school name and it was hard to find on maps. But I'll be there from 11 to 3. If anybody else can make it, love to see you there. It is now 9 o'clock. It is a 2-hour meeting this week instead of 1. Thank you for everybody who hung out the entire 2 hours, or any part of it. If you're still here, I appreciate it. If you can, please donate. We have 21 days left, and all that funding goes towards reaching more people. So purchasing yard signs, purchasing stickers, pens, travel if we can make it work in the last couple of weeks. We would love to if funding comes through and we can make that work. Otherwise, we're going to continue the digital thing, and if a large amount of money comes through, we can purchase addresses, we can send out mailers and things. But as of right now, we are pushing forward for the next 21 days until the election. Continue to educate yourself, and we'll see you at the polls. Oh, if you want to help, if you want to show up at your polling station and just remind people that I'm running, there's a help canvas form on the website. Link in bio. Pick a platform that you're on, link in bio, and go there and say help canvas, and you'll fill out a form. And we just want some basic info so we can partner you up with other people in your area to either canvas in person, door-to-door type situation, or show up at a polling station and cover those as much of the polling day as possible, or election day. So that's 7 to 7 usually. I think it's 7 to 7. But all right, y'all have a good night. Appreciate it, and we will chat with you soon.